I was on the second floor and had the door open. I looked out. I see vans all in the parking lot. Treasury agents wearing jackets. They turn around and look up because I see my door open, and I'm like, whoop.
Before he taught murderers how to play Dungeons and Dragons in Rikers, Jason Snitker, aka Parmaster, was one of the most prolific hackers on the planet, trading exploits with groups across 4 continents, slipping into Citibank, and landing in underground. The book co-written by Julian Assange before vanishing from the Secret Service for over 2 years.
I definitely want to just dig into this super deep because you were at the nexus of some of the biggest hacking groups all over the world.
TS Computer Club in Germany, The Realm in Australia,
ALGM in the UK.
ALGM there, MOD and LOD. Knock at the door, I open the door thinking it's my Chinese hoodie there. You know, it's the special agent in charge of the New York field office for Secret Service. Threw me up against the wall and, had the gun on my side.
You had to commit a crime just to get access, just to make...
To be able to connect to another computer of a wall.
And so how do you think you guys changed the world?
It opened up access for everyone. Information wants to be free. So I did that.
This episode was recorded off-site at an undisclosed hotel with the Parmaster.
Parmaster? Parameter. Good to meet you. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with your origin story and let's just start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Northeast Iowa and California. I grew up in Northeast Iowa with my grandparents until I was 12, and then moved to California with my mother. 5th grade was, really me getting used to California, and that worked out fine. I mean, I liked it so much because it was, and then when I went to junior high, I took up an instrument. I started playing trumpet, and I had met, the head of the computer club. But he played a different instrument, tuba. And he sat behind me, so, where I was, getting hushed up by the director going tap 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 with his,
And this friend that also was in band and did the computer club, was that your first exposure to computers? That's how you
He was the president of the computer club.
And what did you guys do in the computer club?
Well, we studied computing, got to understand it at our level so that we could, whatever education believed at our level was that could bring us along and advance us. I was in the gifted and talented education program in California.
And so did they have like a lab environment with like Apple IIes or something like that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you have a computer at home that you could play on too?
Not then, not till the next year, when my grandmother bought me one for my. She sent money for me to buy one for my birthday. So, and that was that friend who was the president of the computer club. His father was an engineer at Digital Research, and so he had an Apple II from writing CP/M for it, the operating system CP/M, because they invented that. It's Intergalactic Digital Research, digital research incorporated in Pacific Grove, California back then.
What would you do with that? How would you spend your time?
I borrowed a modem from a friend, hooked it to the phone line, and called up our local BBSs because I wanted to learn how that worked. I didn't know telecom at all.
And what just for those that don't know, what is a BBS?
A bulletin board system. It's a computer where people can call in with a modem, a modulator, demodulator, which converts the signals to the computer to talk to another one. And I had a very long phone extension cord that I could run into the kitchen, which is where the phone was.
And so what was that like, you're starting to have access to the world at your fingertips and having your own?
It was very interesting because, local friends in town also, we talked about which BBSs were better, and, we'd give each other the numbers, and we'd all, do that and see each other on there and send each other messages on it.
And these bulletin board systems, so what kind of information would they have? What would they house? Why would you even call into them? What was so interesting about them?
Some of them had rare information, like information about the packet switch networks, which universities use them and corporations use them during the 80s. And these packet switch networks, they would tell you how they explain to you how they would work, and they would even give you identifiers to log into them, which they weren't supposed to do because those were actually owned by a company, but they leak out.
And so how does a kid at 14, 15, 16, young, how do you even go about finding something like that? I hear you had friends that were interested into it, but like...
Well, on the BBSs, that's where I got my first taste of it. And then, learned how to place a data call on a network. First, learned how to log into the network, then place a data call. And I was placing data calls to where all the cool hackers hung out.
And so from the time that you first got that computer, did that immediately start, or were you first just figuring out how to write games on it? Or?
No, I was figuring out how to copy games and break software protection to be able to copy games so that I could have my library of software. Right?
Okay. And so coming back to limited means you didn't have the ability to buy all the games.
Like one way that we were able to get games was over a modem and downloading it from a BBS.
Okay.
Right. It all dovetails together very quickly.
And so someone would buy a game, crack it,
right?
And
or we would crack it. Someone would buy a game, and then we would look at how we can duplicate the game. Like my best electronics engineer at school would look at it. This was after I moved into college directly from high school.
And so were all of y'all just kind of playing around at this point, and was it just mostly local kids that were also...
Right, yeah, very local community college at this point. So I would go there, even though I was in high school. High school students were allowed to go in there. I didn't have any classes then, but then I took a test. I tested out I tested so I never had to go back to high school again, and I could just begin at college.
And so you just had a desire to kind of wrap up high school and
yep.
and move on,
and be at a college where I can do all the things I love, plus get paid for it.
And all the things you love, meaning what?
Cyber stuff, learning computing, learning 6502 assembly code for the Apple stuff, general stuff like that. And I wanted to be able to understand and reverse engineer commercial copy protections on the Apple series, which, like you got a lot of, there are commercial copy programs that you can buy to be able to legally, free use, backup and keep a copy of software that you buy, right? So we would get those. Copy 2 Plus was one. Locksmith was one. And what I would do is there were special parameters for Locksmith that you could put in, and you could pretty much copy anything if you knew what those were. So my specialty is I would work out what those were. I get like from Cracked magazine. They would have those in there, and I had like the biggest repository of all the different ways to be able to copy all different games and software.
And so, were you in a group that was doing this with you, or were you still kind of?
Yes, well, I mean, but they were professionals at it because they understood the programming. Jedi hackers, they knew, they knew assembly, they knew 6502 assembly especially.
And so, how did you meet this group, this Jedi hackers?
Because we were all laboratory people at the school.
So they were all people in college with you.
Yeah,
That this wasn't
community college. I would have staggeringly been stupendous with a degree had not the United States Secret Service raided the campus looking for TRW satellite secret something on the backs.
Okay, we'll definitely get to that. And this name Parmaster, the master of parameters.
Oh, that's the leader of the group. I won't go into who he is, but yeah, because he was the one who had the subscription to Crack magazine, and he'd always set it aside for me. He said, here it is, you can put them in. It's because I'd always have my repository of parameters to copy every possible, any commercial software that came across our way that we needed. I'd always have that backup of a way to back it up. And so he started coming. He's like, you got everyone. I saw what you got. He's like, you have every single one, all the Cracked magazine ones. And he's like, you're the master of parameters. Here's the rest.
So you said your grandfather was a pretty big influence on you. What about on the technical side? Did you have any big mentors or influencers?
Course, the leader of our hacking group was my biggest influence. And my mother had a side job where she worked at a warehouse for Intergalactic Digital Research, which at the time was started by Gary Kildall. So he became a big, he became a good friend to me personally when I was only 14, and I was, learning CPM, learning the disk operating system. He wrote the algorithms for how all that worked. In fact, Microsoft and Bill Gates stole that from him. Anyone can go look at the story of Bill Gates versus digital research. But it is back then it was called Intergalactic Digital Research Incorporated. So I like to keep that because I think it's awesome that he named his company that in the first place.
And so Gary Kildall, this very famous and hardcore engineer, he takes an interest in you personally. Why do you think that was? Well,
I mean, just because we're friends. Because he's bored. He needs creativity probably. Because he's got to come up with the next killer app too. Because they're selling not just the operating system but apps as well.
Do you really think it's boredom, or do you think he saw something in you to want to spend time
I don't know.
with you?
Probably I like to think that he just wanted to help me.
And when he spent time with you, how did you spend time together?
Well, I'd watch him, working on the CPM and stuff, and because I really was still trying to grasp everything.
And when you mentioned him as a mentor, were there any, big experiences or major moments that you had with him where he had that impact? Like, if I just say the name Gary Kildall, what's the first?
Yeah, immediately I just think of, my head spins and I think of all the algorithms involved that he invented that are still used to this day in the disk algorithm.
And for you, this was just someone you got to hang out with.
It's a dude from down the block.
And so having access to someone like that, spending time with someone like that was just...
Yeah, like I was walking back from middle school and stopped down in Camry Road because it was on my way. And I'd stop by the warehouse and be like, hey, he'd be like, hey, come in, you want a pop? He'd open the fridge. So...
And the leader of this hacking group, the Jedi hackers, you mentioned he was a pretty big mentor.
Yeah, he was a famous programmer also later on. He wrote a lot of stuff for NES. He wrote The Little Mermaid for NES. A lot of really big name titles he worked on.
And so what was it about both of them? Because, I mean, a mentor is a pretty important word. Why did you look up to each of them?
Just because of they're just brilliant and because of what they can do. It's not, it's beyond, okay, you can identify that person as brilliant, but wow, look what they can actually really do. Like when I see it with my own eyes, that's what they can do.
And so part of what y'all did in Jedi Hackers was hacking, software hacking,
Yep.
Programs, games. You had mentioned in your notes, games was kind
This
of
guy knows the Apple II ROM in his head, backwards and forwards. I could ask him anything, he'd know.
And you had mentioned in your notes, games was sort of like this gateway drug. Can you talk to me?
Absolutely. Just like on the way the internet came. This is my time was before. This was back during the ARPANET, or almost to the merit portion where we're getting to the internet, right? But not quite there yet. Years before that.
And so are you saying like everything kind of almost began with games? That was the start?
Well, that's there's everyone's desire, right? So at the beginning of the internet, that's everyone's desire. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that's what's wanted. So, you're going online, you're seeing people just trading software, things like that. It's kind of the way socially all people will fail upward or fail. However they're failing, they will fail that way because the desire will be, I want that, and I'm poor, and I want that.
And like Gary Kildall and this leader of Jedi Hackers, you were also one of the best at what you did, and you were known for cracking these games. And
Right. Well, I mean, I wasn't the best. I was like another guy in it. I was an oddity. So, like I'd let them know stuff, and they would just be like, "Wow, okay." I was just the oddity of the group.
And when you say you let them know stuff, what would
I got into this computer the other day, and here, look at this, stuff like that.
And so you were starting to go down a certain direction and showcasing what you could do, but they weren't necessarily going down that path with you.
No, they were not. I mean, one or two I might, have connect with me, and we'll all connect to Germany, and we'll talk on this German BBS to these really famous hackers from the world that we've all heard of or read of.
What about Gary Kildall?
Gary Kildall passed away, and it was unfortunate because it happened at this bar in Monterey and I always used to go play billiards in this because we'd play the local billiards competitions, and in this bar, the one where Gary passed away, when he was in there, I'd be in there with my friends, we doing the billiards stuff. He'd always buy a round for the house, because he wasn't poor. He was like, "Get around. What are you drinking?" I'm like, "Yeah." I get like a no genuine draft or whatever. Not, I'm not get any super expensive, just a beer, right?
Were you there when that happened?
I wasn't there the day that he got struck in the head during the bar fight with a bottle, and it killed him. I wasn't there then. I kind of look back on it now that I'm glad I wasn't there, because I wouldn't want to have seen, Gary ended up, at the hospital. He went to the hospital. They checked him out. They said he was okay or whatever. They let him go, and then later on he had come back because something happened. It got worse. He died. Yes, Franklin. It was called Franklin Street Bar and Grill back then. And I knew it well because it was, a lot of local people, like we would play billiards with the guy who ran the Old Fisherman's Grotto at the wharf there. His chauffeur was one of the people we'd play against.
And so do you know what happened? Like, why did the fight break out? Why did someone hit him with a...
It was about Gary's personal decisions, I think. Because Gary wore Like, he dressed out. He wasn't a biker. You know, you can't dress out like HA. But he dressed out close to HA. And so I think HA, when they came through, they didn't like it.
In HA, you mean Hell's Angels?
Mm-hmm. Because I don't think he was purposely wearing their colors, but to them it looked like he was wearing their colors. And that's what caused this. And that's what's really fucking sad about the saddest, because he didn't deserve to die like this.
Yeah. So luckily you weren't there to have to see that.
I mean, I was there, months before, but not, luckily I wasn't there to actually see them. I would have been in a fight too, I would have been, having a problem with Hell's Angels. No.
Was there a funeral? Did you go?
I did not go because I didn't know his wife.
How did that impact you?
I didn't know his son.
You didn't know the family.
Right.
How did that?
I knew him.
How did that impact you?
It was a big deal for me. I couldn't, I just kind of lost it for a little while, a couple weeks there. You're just trying to figure out what happened. I'd go like I'm investigating around trying to find out what the fuck is going on, Gary's dead. Stop at the bars, ask the people I know, well, they're out at the other bars. The hell happened over there? Stuff like that. That's really all I got.
So you're at the digital frontier, and you're a kid at this point. Did you, at that time in being so young, did you understand how much of the forefront you were already at compared to everyone else?
Well, I mean, by the numbers, there were less than 100 of us all throughout the country doing this.
And you have a huge impact from a mentor, Gary. You are clicking up with this group, Jedi hackers, and then the relationship at home, it's a little bit strained with your...
Right, yeah, I made a mistake using equal access codes, got some bad AMA billing on my local line, my mom's line, so I had there's a spat about that.
And so you basically had ran up the phone bill, and there was
I had a bad AMA billing.
And ultimately...
Automatic message accounting stuck on the line, so... nobody was attacking me. It was something I did where I failed.
And so you're emancipated from high school at this point. You've graduated out. You don't need to do
that. So I'm like, I don't need to be here. I can be anywhere and do this. So I moved in with friends, and I didn't have to come back ever. Didn't have to go back to school. Didn't have to go back home to mom's house. So, just hung out, stayed at my friend's house.
Did you take the computer with you?
Of course, what I'm going to leave it, I would never leave that. Because I need to use that. That's when things, I really started using it. I really, really got into being in touch with everyone in the world more and getting into computers more.
And so once you're out of the house, you're living with friends. They're kind of putting you up.
Right, and I don't have to pay rent, so I'm just standing in our living room.
And is that the point in which the hacking kind of at scale begins to
right?
To
that's
start?
where the I start scanning networks and getting into different computers, using the trick that I know.
And these roommates that you had, did they have any idea that you were doing this?
No, I mean, one did, but he was like, "Yeah, I want to check this out," right? Because they're like, "Okay, well, where can this go?"
So getting into computers and everything that you were doing, what do you think you would have been up to? What do you think you would have been doing if not this?
Oh, God, it would have been terrible. I would have probably been, like the other kids, poor, hustling, probably tried drugs and stuff. It would have been much worse. Computer crime was so much better than what I would have ended up as, to be honest.
So you move out, and things start to accelerate on the hacking side. We talked about this.
Because I have, now I'm going to classes at college too, but not all the time, because I have more control of my own schedule that way.
And you become, and I mean, I definitely want to just dig into this super deep, because you were at the nexus of some of the biggest hacking groups all over the world, and you talked to folks in Australia, you talked to folks in the UK and
Right.
in Germany.
Chaos Computer Club in Germany, The Realm, and other hackers in Australia.
And ALGM in the UK.
ALGM, yeah.
MOD, LOD here.
MOD and LOD, that was actually a bit later.
And so how does that, you start by your, scanning local BBSs. Can you just kind of walk me through how it begins to translate from that to?
Because I'm doing more of the trick that I learned on the network to take advantage and exploit it. It's called pad to pad. Like when someone would call in on an async dial-up, they're issued they're on a packet assembler disassembler, and they're issued a port on it. But there's a flaw in the network software where if you connect, you can keep placing a connection at your prompt on the local level. You can try to connect to that port someone's connecting in on. You're not supposed to be able to do it, but you just keep hammering it, keep brute forcing until someone calls into it, and then you're connected to them, and they don't know it.
And to sort of set the stage for folks, so this is kind of this is pre-internet. This is TimeNet and Telenet.
It's Telenet,
which were sort of precursors.
Was what this one worked on Telenet. It was a flaw in the Telenet software.
And so because this pad-to-pad flaw in your ability to do it.
I would just keep trying to connect to somebody on a port until, that port's not in use, but then eventually someone dials into it, and then I pretend like I'm the network, and they type their NUI and their password for it, and then they put in the address for the computer they're trying to connect to, and then I go, on another channel to that address, see what its login looks like, and dump that to them. They think they're logging into that computer they're trying to, but they're typing everything to me. And so, either they're using a macro to do it because they've automated their login, or they're typing it by hand. And either way, I get the login and password. So I'm in whatever computer they were trying to get as them.
And so this technique that you're using, that starts to get you unfettered access to systems.
Many things I got access to what was called TRW mail then. It was a system that processed email for TRW. Right. So I connected to a person in Orange, California, who was dialing in to do company work.
And so through that access, gaining access to places like TRW, we'll definitely talk about that, universities and all kinds of stuff you were doing. You also started to have access to people beyond those folks that were interested in computers in California. You started having access to people all around the world. Yeah,
other people who were interested in this, they didn't really do pad to pad. We kind of limited who knew that secret, how that you could do it.
And so there was this famous bulletin board. I think it was in Germany. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was called Altos BBS.
Right, Altos was the computer company, and they made 68,000 base Unix machines, and that was Altos Computer Systems, Munich and Hamburg, because they had a computer at each. But Munich was the big one. Everyone hung out there. Chaos Computer Club, everybody who was the big swinging dicks in the world would be on that computer.
And on Altos?
Yeah, Hans Korender wrote a real-time chat program that you connect to. You just connect to a network user address on that computer, it drops you right into it.
And so not only, like, typically bulletin boards, you would put up files and you would kind of share files, but here you could actually chat with everyone.
Yeah, you're connecting in, and you get a login, and the banner for the system says, log in as guest for chat, or Gast, because in German it's Gast. So you You type GAST or GUEST, and boom, it would drop you into the real-time chat written by Hans Kornander.
And how did you find that? Do you have to get invited? Do you have to?
No, I mean, everyone hung out there because it was elite. So the network user address was posted all over the place on our BBSs. So if you have to have an NUI, because remember, all data calls to other computers in the world are paid for. There's no way to connect. You have a per packet charge.
Right.
So, you cannot do it. You have to commit a crime to connect and get it to hang out. You're forced to commit a crime. It's not like the internet at all.
Right. How do you go about even figuring that out, starting with local dial-up BBSs to now you're breaking into universities and all this?
Well, I mean, you're talking to other people who are really good hackers, and they tell you, they connect you to text files on other BBSs that you can read to study and understand how to do these things. That's how everyone starts. All of the Legion of Doom technical journals were available, the tutorials for hacking.
Was it a coordinated effort between the hackers where you would go after something together, or was each one sort of doing their own thing?
Everybody's doing their own thing because you've got your own interests and your own specialties. Like, you can find, okay, so I know this prefix of an address is owned by this corporation, and I know about that corporation. I've been in a bunch of their other stuff. I'm targeting that corporation. I'm gonna exhaust all addresses connected to those computers, find every computer that I can connect to.
And would you guys trade access?
Absolutely, often.
And would it be sort of a give to get sort of thing, where if you give me access to this?
Yeah, right. Yes. Like, I'll even make you an account. I've got root inside this computer. I'll trade you for, whatever.
And so access was okay, but this pad to pad, I think is what you call it.
Right. Yeah.
The actual technique.
Yeah, the technique we didn't really let out. People had known it. LOD had known it. LOD knew how to do exploitation too. Back then they called it buffer overflow. They called it getting root through the processor. But it was actually a buffer overflow. But they had a different name for it. Because they're trying to explain how when Morris did his worm, how it worked.
You knew Pango. You had interacted with.
Yeah, I knew Pango. I mean, from Chaos Computer Club, people hung out on Altos. We would talk. I knew Pango probably better than the rest of them. My ex-girlfriend at the time had hung out with them and his little group in Berlin.
And he was selling secrets to the Soviets, to the KGB?
Yeah, I believe he had a relative. No, it wasn't. It technically was not Pango that did this. It was one of the other members. Hagbard Celine. Karl Koch.
Yes.
The one who was killed for it. I remember there was a French Vax specifically that everyone was going apeshit about. We want to know who the fuck got in that computer. Everyone, they're like lighting a fire on everybody. Find out who the fuck got in that French Vax.
And when you say everybody find out, you're talking about the governments trying to find out what was going on?
It was a NATO computer. I mean, I don't know if it's the same one, but there was a NATO computer in France that had been hacked into, and someone had stolen all of the Allied signatures for the Allied NATO planes from the database. I don't know if it was that one, but there was something in that fucking computer that they were going crazy about.
And so this guy, Karl Koch Hagbart, in May of 1989, he dies. And I knew a little bit about the history, but...
Right, like his family, like you could tell there was East German Stasi connections with them. And so near the time when Gorbachev comes to visit the area, he fucking mysteriously, this guy dies, burned alive in the Black Forest. So they said he dumped diesel on himself or petrol, either diesel or petrol, whatever, and lit himself on fire.
And all they found, from what I read, was his bones. That's all was left of him. And so you're arrested. Your friends are getting arrested. They have things coming down. This happens in May of '89.
Then we're freaking out. I mean, because now it's the Cold War,
Right.
And I've got the TRW, deltas. So.
And did y'all find out at that time, pretty close to when his death happened?
Find out what?
Carl Koch,
When he died, you mean? Well, I mean, we had talked about it because they had been in the press for years, in German press about what they did for a long time.
And so what is going through your head with all of that?
Oh, them, I don't know what to make of them. I'm like, I want to know about the Russians. So I'm trying to figure out, a way that I can find out about the Russians, because they know them. Whether it's the Stasi or not, they know them. So I wanted to know information about who they have.
And so these groups that you hung out with, and you weren't really in any of them. You just
No, because I didn't want to focus, because you draw more attention yourself by being a member of a big name group. So I just never wanted it.
But you still were around all of them. You engaged with all of them. Was that normal for a single person not involved with any of the?
No, I mean there were others, but not a lot. I was lucky some of them liked me. So no.
And you didn't want to be involved because of the attention it might bring?
Oh, right, because I saw the attention their guys were getting, and I was like, that's all the heat in the universe on them. We'll leave it that way.
Well, let's kind of dig into each one of these things at a time. Can we talk about the realm specifically? Electron, Nom, just all those guys. This DEF CON program and sort of Citibank and everything that happened there.
I think it was Force who originally wrote the DEF CON program, and it was on a dial. They wrote it for dial comms.
And what did DEF CON? What did it do?
It would scan IP. It would scan network user addresses on the packet switch network, make connections to the computer, grab the banner, even try some logins to it.
And so it was a way to quickly just map out.
Yep. It's like basically think of Nmap,
right?
But for a packet switch network, and it would just dump a file. So you gotta. You can even see them on. You can go look in. Jason Scott would have them in the archives. Text file archives they used to call them sprints. In Australia, they called them network sprints and then they would do one for like a different corporation's network because they'd identify it, and then
And so Forrest from Realm wrote this program, I think, along with
Forrest and
Thunderbird.
Thunderbird was the original author, I think.
And so they wrote it. It was the Realms tool, sort of like pad to pad. Did they just give that out to anyone, or did they keep that program?
No, they kept it to. Because they had traded me at dial comms before, and I'd use those dial comms to place network calls out. But the DEF CON program I'd see it in their directory, so I grabbed a copy of it, had it on a 5 1/4 disc for a while. So I took a copy. I'd had a copy of it.
You took it. They wasn't given to you. You found it. And you took it.
But we had traded, and they'd left it there, sitting in, for their use, in an account that they had given me because we'd traded for accounts.
And this program has a pretty big impact on what's going to happen next. Is my understanding correct that Forrest used this program to find hosts within Citibank?
Yes, he did. Yeah, 223 and 224 within GT Telenet were owned by Citibank. And it was known by all of us. So they plugged those in, and boom, exhaustive scan.
And they found a host initially that spewed out.
Well, they had connected. They didn't know what the hell they'd found.
Right.
And so they found, the host spewed off credit card numbers. And why is that? How is that? They didn't know. I figured it out, but I heard about it and I was like, you know what? I'd like to get that, because then I can grab those numbers and I can put them through a credit card checker, like the kind that you have for stores, and just verify that they're actually legit. Really, that's what they are. So I did. I by hand did it. I didn't use DEF CON to do it. I did it. I sat there and just typed by hand. It was like about 25,000 different addresses I had to do.
And because from what I understand from the
Like I have a little macro that does the first part of the network address, and then I would manually type the end numbers as I'm macroing, right?
and from what I understand from the book, Forrest had this program. He found this,
And then we're talking about it on Altos,
right, but he won't give you the program, and he's being kind of coy with
Right, yeah.
where exactly it is.
because he's like, I don't know what you're gonna do with it, right?
But he gave you a part of the quote unquote network block where you could start
Right.
scanning it by
Yeah,
hand.
he gave me the pre-printed portion of the network that it was located in. And that narrows it down a lot because we're talking millions of computers at that level.
And so what happened? What happened next? He gives you this network block. You scan it by hand, and then
Boom! I get the same thing. I connect, and boom! It just floods my screen with 10,000 credit cards and the details of their transactions.
so you took that, downloaded it.
Yeah, I turned the screen capture on. Yeah, grabbed all that, wrote it to disk.
And then, so you have this 10,000 lists of credit cards. And from what I understand in the book, these weren't just normal credit cards. Right. These were Saudi princes.
Yeah, these are Saudi American Bank.
Right.
Debit cards. So the first debit cards I'd ever heard of, I didn't even know they didn't really exist before this, as far as I know. But these were debit cards linked to a bank account, Saudi American Bank. So, these guys are getting proceeds from their oil deposited into these accounts. And I'm honestly, like, when I'm looking at them, there's $5 million on them, like a lot of them.
And so so you have that impact, you hit pay dirt. What do you do next? What do you do with that information?
Well, I'm like, is that valid? Boom, boom. Like I said, I'm calling it in just to see if I can do a simple, like a $20 charge on it. Is it real? And yes, Trump comes back real.
And
so they're real.
And so do those get traded in the community where you kind of start doing?
They've been traded on bulletin boards in Australia first.
Okay.
Right, because what those guys have been doing shit. Well, they were making calls. They'd call the fucking AT&T operator and use a Visa card to make a call long distance and charge. They would do that. And when I got everything back from the case, I literally was given the call logs from Australia, also.
And so when you had that outcome, did you tell Forrest that you had figured it out, you had found it, and that you had the 10,000 cards as well?
No, I did not. I didn't really get into that. I don't remember if I did or not. Right off the bat, I think I waited.
And so what you collected them? What did you ultimately do with them?
I give like they did down in Australia. I probably gave out a couple, to people that like if you can figure out how to use it, go ahead. Just Dom's a dumb kid.
Did you ever use one yourself to make phone calls or anything like that?
No, because I couldn't make a physical plastic card move it back then, and so I never, you could use them with the operator, but in Australia they did that. Different country, different standards. You could go to any American payphone, hit 0, get an operator, and bill it to a credit card as well, or debit card. I think actually back then you might have had to call a special AT&T operator.
And so you have this outcome, you're successful, this is kind of happening in the background, but during that time you're also hacking into a lot of other things. You had mentioned TRW.
Yeah. Well, TRW, like I said, I got into their TRW mail system, and I got that guy's login from Orange who was logging into work. And, you get access into that system, and that system is TRW Space and Defense, and it's the postings of their press releases in LA. So I'm like, and this is killer satellite, developing a laser beam to destroy, move the satellite around and zap enemy satellites and destroy them, cut them up with a laser. And that was real, and that was Reagan's baby.
You're talking about SDI.
SDI, correct. And after this, at the very end of it, they actually did work on one. It was called the Alpha laser. I don't know if it was ever successfully built, but that's the last one that they have on file of SDI that they were building. And it was supposedly like a real genius type laser that would actually work in space.
And you're doing this all on your own. So you're hacking into TRW on your own. You're
right. But I mean, like I said, that's a telemail, TRW mail. And so what I could see the press releases they're pushing out about we're building this fucking awesome killer satellite with this laser. And then I could see the diffs of it, the delta. I could see, we're putting, okay, they put that out there and then they edited it and they put it back this way. So I'm like, why are things getting removed? That they're removing things about what they're telling the public. Somebody decides that's top secret, you can't say that or whatever. So that's where you get these deltas from.
So the deltas in the sense that they were making the capabilities more than they actually were, or the opposite?
Or either or, yes.
Hiding capabilities and didn't want to disclose.
The KGB was after this, Like the Falcon and the Snowman ain't shit compared to what this thing, right? Because this is a laser in a satellite.
And so along with TRW...
To destroy the KGB, to destroy the Soviets' spacecraft,
And you had mentioned the Soviets before. Did you do any hacking against Russian systems?
1989 I had. It was Moscow Library. On the pad, the packet assembler, disassembler for it, if the last part of the address is 99, that's the debug port. So I'd always try that, and drops you to a prompt, and there's a little menu of stuff you can do because you're in the debug. So I got that on Moscow Library in 1989.
So you were prolific. How many companies or organizations do you think you broke into over that time period? Are we talking about tens, hundreds?
Tens.
In TRW and Citibank, were those some of the more epic?
Yeah.
Some of the more...
First one's most epic. Yeah, but it's very complicated what happened with how Citibank worked. Because Citibank was actually a pad-to-pad of a kind. Because that's why, the scanner, DEFCON, would be running and making these connections to the address. But it would get, the TTY would open and boom, it would get. Because on the Citibank side, there's a computer that's opening a port to sending print information to a printer, right? But because of the pad-to-pad flaw in the network,
it sent it to you.
Yeah, it's sending it directly to me.
Right. And so it thinks it's sending it to the printer to be printed out, and you're just capturing all these.
Yeah, it is. Boom, hit capture, boom, it's written the disk. Yeah, that's what happened.
And so that one you mentioned you kept a little bit low key. You're not sure if you told Force about that you had found it.
Not till later.
Not till later. Yeah. What about TRW? I mean, did you let people know that you had gotten in and that you were seeing these things about these killer satellites?
Yeah, no, I never bragged about TRW at all. But I had friends that were interested in things, and we'd talk about stuff. But that's dumb. You don't want to do that because, when you have this precise access at this level, talking about it at all is a risk.
Because someone might be an informant or could get back.
Big time.
Okay. And so the one of the credit cards, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from this Citibank hack, you had these credit cards of these wealthy...
Debit cards
of these wealthy...
of the guys getting their money dumped from the oil profits into their account.
And ultimately you give one to someone that, what you just said, they were either an informant or undercover, but it was like a TimeNet security officer?
No, it was a Telenet.
Telenet security officer.
So this was all on GT Telenet.
Okay.
Where this problem and the flaw. and that occurred.
And so is that where the Secret Service starts to get involved?
Yes.
And do you know what happened? Did he wind up contacting the Secret Service, or how did that one card?
I don't know. Like, it goes through the bank system somehow, and they get to San Mateo, and the Citibank investigator is Larry Wallace in San Mateo, because he's for my area.
And so he picks up the information from the telenet,
and then works with the Secret Service on it.
Okay, and that's where their investigation on you begins.
Yep.
Can you kind of just walk me through that process of how that started when you first found out that people were on to you and starting to look for you?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's, they got enough, you're busted. Okay, well, we found this, that's when they find you have a financial instrument that does not belong to you, you're done. It's the start. You can get 20 years for that nowadays, even. But back then, it's the same. The Secret Service is in charge of financial crimes by electronic means. So, Bureau does some stuff with that, not always. People tend to call the Bureau first, and at the Bureau, on intake, everything gets classified as secret. It can go up or down. So, if it gets to them first, it's okay. And then it's really a Secret Service matter, it'll go to the Secret Service. They'll get it to where it belongs. And
so this credit card, it makes its way from Telenet to Citibank. Secret Service eventually gets called in by Citibank, and then through other folks that are detailed in the book, they start to zero in on PAR. They start to zero in on your phone number.
Right, and then informants talk about, heard about this guy got access or something, and gave someone one.
And so on November 25th, I think 1989, they show up, but you're actually out of town. 1988. They show up, but you're out of town at the time, right?
Right, yep.
And so you're living with these two friends?
Right, and I'm just coming back from San Jose Airport, because that day I was driving back.
Where were you?
So I was flying from Iowa to San Jose Airport.
Were you with your mom?
Yep.
Okay. But they show up to these friends that you're living with after you left, and
their address, not my mom's address.
And so what happens? They
conduct a raid. They grab the computer, because the computer's still sitting in their living room.
And your friends are interrogated? They're
freaking the fuck out. Yeah, right. Because the feds are here, right? As one does.
And so they're interrogated. They almost think one of them is you at first.
Right, yeah. They thought my friend Scott was me, but he's not.
And before you get back, because
they had been watching the house for a while.
Right.
And so seeing Scott come and go, and more than me, I guess, they might have thought he was me somehow.
And you call them and you check in. You don't have any idea of what's just happened.
I have no concept.
And they're playing it cool. They don't tell you anything.
Right.
They're worried that the phones are tapped.
Because they are.
Yeah. And so how did you ultimately get tipped off that it was going down?
I called a girl that I knew who had come to visit and hang out at the house with us from L.A. who knew about all these things.
How? How would she know?
Because she was in the scene. She was with us, and she'd come to visit me at the house and hung out. It's in the book.
Yeah. Theorem.
No, this was
someone else.
This was Tammy.
Okay.
From L.A.
How is that so similar to the Secret Service or the FBI watching you guys? You had a way to watch them and know what they were up to as well, and so somehow that got...
somebody that, if I find somebody they're leaning on, hell yes. Right? I'm going to get mine. I'm going to find out.
And so is that through someone hacked into their own networks, or you have the phones tapped, or you're just somehow able to...
No, I'm just, She knows that whatever went down somehow, and that's all I need to know. So I'm like, I ain't going there. I was like, I did not go.
And so what happened?
I
What
don't
happened
remember.
next? You found out.
It's went to the roommates. I talked to them, off, off channel, through other means, and I got to I met them at the bus station, like Greyhound, and they swooped in, I jumped in and got Ray. They brought me to a lawyer they knew, and that's how I got my lawyer.
Richard Rosen.
Correct.
And so you know that this raid has happened. It sounds like you did take a bus back to California and they pick you
Oh
up.
no! I took a flight to San Jose, then took a bus from San Jose to Salinas, and so I was at that station.
Okay.
And I'm just trying not to get caught by cops at this point,
Right.
because they gotta be on the lookout for me.
And they had surveillance on, like, were they tailing your friends, and were they?
Yes, they were all the time, and they had been doing it before the raid for weeks. Right? I mean, it's a professional raid.
And so you show up to this Richard Rosen's law firm. Did he know that you were coming in? Did he know?
Yeah, I mean, they had set up to meet with him, and his secretary looks at me like I'm a fucking alien that just appeared, because they'd never heard of what I'm, because I'm getting pursued, right? So they got first thing Richard does is, he's on the phone with the feds about the pursuit and getting the heat off of me, because they're trying to get me. They want to capture me,
And so so he calls the feds. You're working. The feds are working through him to talk to you
Right?
because you're represented.
They're trying
now.
to,
Right.
but he breaks them down. So we agreed that, okay, I'll come in, I'll get booked at the police station, so that I get booked. They give me a 501c, computer crime written on a ticket. Like, I got a fucking parking ticket for computer crime.
Do you still have it?
I wish I did. I actually destroyed all the stuff they gave me back. I'm like, no one needs to ever have this but me, and I'll just end it right now.
And so you do go in, you get booked, you get processed.
Right, they got my prints, they got my photos.
In and out same day?
Yep.
Okay.
Right, they're not, there's no way that I go in and don't get out, because that's what we negotiated.
And so you and Richard are talking. He's represented you now. You're going to have a hearing. What happens? What happens next? How does he advise you on?
Well, I mean, we have a long, these months until that happens. So it's just all preparation for that.
But you're out free at this point. You're not doing any time or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not on bail or anything.
And so through that process, did you and he discover kind of where the DA was thinking about things, how they wanted to?
He's very good at it, and yes, that's why I hired him, because he is. I mean, he is the best criminal defense attorney I've ever met. A guy killed someone, and they found the knife in that person's back that he killed, and his fingerprints on the knife sticking in the back of that person, and Richard got them off. I was like, this is going to be my lawyer.
And so what kind of charges were you looking at? What kind of charges, damages, everything like that?
501c3 computer crime, the state statute in California.
And you had mentioned last night it was something like 5.3 million in damages?
Or 5.5 million.
5.5 million in damages.
Recently, the agent that had, who used to have to look in the system every 6 months to put updates about me, he goes, yeah, Jason, hey, 5.5 million, Saudi American Bank. I'm like, yeah, hey, yeah, 5.5 million.
How old were you?
17.
What is going through your head with everything?
Like, I'm terrified that, because I'm like going to disappear forever, or with the TRW diff thing, maybe they're going to kill me right there. I don't know. That's why I'm not going to, I'm going to, if I'm going to, I'm getting processed by justice, sure, that's fine. But I'm not going to be retained by them by any means.
And so your lawyer, you got $5.5 million in damages.
But he said the last one that they had told him was $3 million. They'd come to him they wanted to make a deal for $3 million in restitution. It's like, I'm never going to have $3 million in my life anyway. I don't know why they'd bother.
And along with the restitution, were you looking at any jail time?
I was looking at whatever they thought they could get, because then it was going to be prosecuted, and then there would be sentencing guidelines and for computer crime state computer crime, not federal.
And so you have a hearing coming up. What was Rosen's take to you on all of it? How did he think that it was going to go down? What was his advice?
Like he brought me back. He said it was like pulling teeth to get answers from them about anything. So, but eventually, they had wanted $3 million restitution was part of what came out. Not much else other than those things.
But once you heard that number,
then I'm not going to stick around for whatever circus these people are going to throw for me, because just the raids and the way they treated people, because these are federal agents, in a manner of national security, they're acting, not just financial security. They're acting like it's national security. They're violent people. They break doors down. They're not normal. It's not like a normal police.
And so you decide you're not going to stick around to see what happens.
Yep, I
happens
leave
next.
Yep.
Did you tell your lawyer that you were going to take off?
No, I wish I had, because he was a little upset I didn't at the end. But at the end, it's so many years later, it seemed okay, I guess.
And so you're 17. You're, like you said, you're scared about what could happen. Mm-hmm. You decide to run, yep. And you do. So what's the plan? Like, where do you go? What do you do?
Like hang out with other hackers and stuff. Really, I think I went down to San Diego first because I'm in California, but I'm eventually going to wander out of California. But being in California, nothing unusual about that. I'm a Californian.
And so are you couch surfing? And you're just staying at a buddy's pad, that sort
Yep.
of thing? What makes you decide to go somewhere? What makes you decide it's time to leave? Do the people that you're staying with, do they know what's going on?
Because it's the scene. They know.
They know.
Yeah.
And so, they could be, aiding and abetting, right?
Right. Yeah. But because my court date hasn't been up yet.
So you decide to go on the lam. You go down to San Diego, and so how are you?
I'm trying to figure out what should I do. Do I need to go to another country? Could I go to Mexico? Because I'm down. I can near a border crossing at least. I could get the fuck out of USA.
And so you had friends from the community down in San Diego,
right? All my friends it's me and all my contacts are hackers,
right?
All across this nation. Of the 100 or so that were like us and did these things.
And so they're almost like safe houses where you can go, you can...
Right, kind of, yeah.
You can stay on the couch and...
Right, their parents aren't going to know who I am. I'm just their friend visiting or whatever,
But they knew what was going on and why they needed to protect you.
Right.
And so how did you decide where you were going to go, who you were going to be with? How did you decide when it was time to leave? Because you wound up going around to a lot of different spots. So,
I kind of looked at, when was the best opportune times? Because, it wasn't always that I could do it. I had to pick my times when I could do it, just to be able to.
And you knew that you had to move around over time to prevent getting caught?
Right, because I'm hacking all the entire time I'm doing it.
Right. I'm
not stopping at all.
How do you even make ends meet when you're on the run, just living from location to location?
Help, like I had a girlfriend. She was, did options at a Swiss bank. So I'm like, can I borrow some money here and there? And that worked.
And you mentioned the hacking was still happening through all of it, and it started to accelerate. Why you know, you already have this issue that you're dealing with Citibank and the Secret Service is after you. What was the thought behind, you know, screw it and continuing to excel?
Because I'm like, I'm already screwed. What am I going to do? I'm like, more. I need to get more powerful. I need to get more powerful. Literally, that's what I'm thinking. So I start working on TimeNet because I've already done Telenet. So TimeNet, you know, I'm starting getting in as engineers on that, deep in there.
And so from the minute that you're getting down to San Diego to the time that the duration that you're there, you're hacking on the computer.
No, that was still Telenet then, but after I left California, more TimeNet.
Okay. And so San Diego to LA, and then LA to Jersey?
Right. I mean, with a pit stop, I attended SummerCon '89.
You went to a con during that process?
I went to SummerCon '89. You know, it was all LOD. You know, old school LOD was there.
Was that the first summer con?
No, it was 1989. It was like the 20th or 12th or something. I think I'd have to go look at the banner, but I met other people from Crack Magazine. Interviewed me there.
And was it just widely known? Not just in your circle of friends they're helping.
People that like Abby Hoffman knew interviewed me. You know.
And did they know you were on the run when they?
Some people there at the conference did know. Most did not, however.
And so you went from SummerCon, had a pit stop, got to see friends, and then you go to Jersey. And is it just more friends in these groups that
more hacking friends, freaking friends there actually, better with phones.
How long were you staying, you know, on average in each of these places?
Not more than 2 weeks usually, because I'm like, I don't know, you know, what that circus that they're gonna have in California for me. I don't know how it's gonna go, because I know it's state right now. They could do some dipshit thing like try to raise it from state level, but I think the feds were afraid to take it because they didn't want to pay for to house me in prison, right? So they would leave that to state to pay that, you know, and handle the investigation. That way, it forced the state to house me in prison.
And were there any times where you knew you had to leave where you were, but you didn't have the next place lined up? Were there any times that you didn't have a house to stay in?
Yeah, there were a couple times. You know, I've slept on a park bench. You know, it's not a glamorous fugitive lifestyle, I'll tell you.
And so are you taking all of your hacking notes? Are you taking your computer around with you, or how's that work?
You know, I've got like a bag and I've got a laptop, old school laptop back then. So
you go from California, and it's the first time you're leaving the state on the run. You go to New Jersey. Why did you pick New Jersey after tour?
A freaker friend there who's got a left-end loop in his house.
What is that?
He turned on the phone line himself from the switch. We call that a left-end loop.
And so you could hack freely from his house.
Right. I mean, it's, you know, that doesn't exist. You know, so there's no person connected to that.
And are most of these people that you're staying with, are they members of LOD or MOD, or is it just a smattering of all types of folks?
All various.
In Jersey, where were you in Jersey? Were you in Newark or Trenton or?
No, like closer to Jersey City, you know, in the Jersey side, not in like New York side.
And then ultimately from Jersey, you make it down to North Carolina.
Right.
And that's where Nibbler is.
Right, yeah. Him and his family owns this whole huge complex of like a motel and like little houses they rent out. They call them chalets.
And he knew what was going on. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean he was a very capable young man.
And did his family have any idea what you were up to or what the relationship was about?
No, I mean I probably wouldn't admit it if they did, because I like them. They were good people. I mean they're honest to God, good Southern people.
And when you're there, a faction of LOD, which the media or law enforcement called the Atlanta Three. So there's leftist, prophet, and Irvine. Is that right?
Correct.
You somehow get into contact with them, and they basically own the phone network. And do they somehow tip you off?
Yeah, it was Southern Bell. Necron 99, I was friends with him pretty good. Irvine, that's his other handle. You know, when you read the stuff, you'll see Irvine a lot, but Necron 99 was the handle I knew him best as.
And when they were contacting you about you're staying at this Black Mountain, is that what it was
Yep,
called?
that was
The hotel, motel?
just outside of Asheville.
And had they already been indicted? Had they already been arrested?
Yeah, they were already well deep within their process. Yeah.
And so just like with you, even after the arrests come down, they're still accelerating on the.
No, like they're done whatever they're done, but they're fine with telling me what happened and how things worked on that network.
And so what did Prophet tell you about what was going on in North Carolina? Was it them that kind of tipped you off?
Yeah, well, they said, well, you know, you can pad to pad on Southern Bell. I'm like, okay, good. So then now that's a whole new weapon for me. I got a whole new adventure land.
And did Southern Bell?
Southern Bell, I mean, all the phone computers in Bell South. That means I could steal them, all of them.
And did that include coverage for North Carolina?
All of it, yes.
And so you could look at phones being tapped.
I could look. I could do things with the equipment. I could look at records for phone numbers, everything.
And so while this is going on, they've gotten arrested. You've obviously been arrested.
Well, I had been arrested to be charged, right? But I didn't show up, so I left.
And so did that lead you to start focusing more on Soviet computers through the time that you're on the run?
No, not really. Not at all, actually. But I did want to know what they had gotten and who they knew.
And so...
Because I'm from Monterey, you know, we take Cold War seriously. It's all, you know, CIA and DIA in my town.
And so the Atlanta 3, they've been arrested, but they give you access to...
Well, I mean, they didn't give me access. They say, you know how to do this, so do it.
And ultimately, you start figuring out that the voltage on the phone lines at the motel are signaling high, that something seems off.
Something seemed wrong when I looked up on something on the computer for the switch for that town. So what I did is my friend there, he had his buddy, the guy, the normal telephone technician come in, who is very good and new. You know, he could do bug sweeps, everything. He checked the lines, and he's like, yeah, the lines are way off.
So you knew something.
It was bad.
You knew something was up, and they were probably monitoring you.
They absolutely 100% were monitoring us. We knew that.
And then the Hugo is coming in around this time, the big hurricane. That
so we got everything all written, anything, physical media, anything, took it and put it in a storage place, stashed it away, because they were coming to raid.
And did that...
They did come and raid, right?
Yeah,
we knew that was happening.
When they showed up...
They don't prep like that for nothing.
Right. And so when they showed up, what was that like? Did you know that they were coming that day? Did you just see them outside?
No, I was on the second floor and outside my room, had the door open like this, and I looked out. I see vans all in the parking lot, dudes, treasury agents, wearing jackets, you know. Got the blue jacket on, like a bureau jacket, but these were treasury agents. They didn't really have anything written on theirs. And so I see that and I'm like, holy fucking shit. And they turn around and look up because they see my door open, and I'm like, shut that door again. Yeah, that's a bad portal. Yeah.
And so they're about to come in and they're going to go room by room.
Well, they're searching they're grabbing the whole place. I'm looking, you know, they don't need to go room by room yet. They just had to identify the hierarchy of the place.
And so they surrounded the motel at this point?
Yeah, it was. I mean, they had the locals there, the police also.
And so they have the place surrounded. You're on the second floor. You see them. Oh shit!
Yeah, right.
Close the door.
You know, I'm making it so they don't see me, and I'm much heavier set than my photo from when I was booked showed. So I don't look remotely the same. They can't tell I'm me.
But there was a kid outside that they thought was you at first. Is that right?
Yeah, one of the workers. Yeah,
And they grabbed him and put him in a van.
and they questioned him.
And so the noose is clearly closing in on you.
Right.
And they are about to go through the hotel room by room. What did you do at that point?
Then I'm like, through my side channels, talking to the people through in the hotel, like getting a way to get out, how to sneak out. Well, we got to wait for dark, and then I got to make it so that they don't get searched and hit this room. So have the one dude come up to the connecting room, the room next door, which has a connecting door, go in there and then open that door so I can get through and pop in between rooms if I need to. If they're if they're searching one, I can pop in to the other one. Kind of like here.
And that's ultimately what you did, right? As they're coming into this room, you pop over to the
Right, yeah.
to the other room, and then they do their sweep. They don't find you.
Right. Miraculously, I'm not caught. And I'm still free. Because I'm going to be free. I'm going to be physically running as fast as I can to get away and be shot at if I have to, because I'm not going to let them take me.
And so do you wait for night to come and for them to appear to leave? And then
for the presence to die down at night. And then, snuck into, the worker, one dude who was cool with me. And he had a car, so he pulled up. I dove in the back of the seat, threw a blanket over me, just laid down, below the seat and the foot part, so I wouldn't be noticed. There was nobody sitting in the back of that car, right?
Right.
He takes me out to where?
He takes you out to Asheville, right?
Yeah, and then from Asheville I get to Charlotte because I'm getting on a flight. I had like $450 in cash getting on that flight. I get in there, I'm like, I need to buy a ticket. I walk up, it's the 80s, like, you can fucking smoke on the plane, other weird shit. And I've got cash. I'm walking up to the counter, buying a ticket to New York and paying cash, getting it physically printed right there for me. And that's, I have a physical, paper tickets are like cash.
Right.
And once I just bought it and I was ready to go.
And back then, so you're coming up to the counter with the paper ticket. Back then, do you have to show ID to get on a?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And so there is no do not fly list or anything like that?
Yeah, nothing exists. There's like, if agents are looking for people, that's it. Or if Israelis are looking, if they're looking for terrorists, something, but that's all there is.
And so you leave Black Mountain, you go to Asheville, you wind up in Charlotte over a flight.
And your name on the manifest is just whatever you said it is.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, a little bit different these days.
Yeah, I think, what was my name on the manifest? It was Duncan something. Duncan, Idaho. From the... Yeah, Duncan, Idaho.
And so you wind up in Charlotte. Did you actually have friends there, or was that just the next connection out to get out of the...
No, I had to be in the airport and do that to fly away.
Okay.
It's Duncan, Idaho. I fly.
Was that the first flight out?
That's the closest regional big airport.
Okay.
Where I'm going to have connecting flights to big regional airports, international,
And so this is the second time that the Secret Service has gotten extremely close.
Right, but technically these guys were showing Treasury badges.
Okay.
So Secret Service, but back when they were run by the Treasury, and these guys were just, instead of using the Secret Service badge, they're using Treasury.
And so the first time when they had raided, you weren't there. This time you actually got to see them and coming in and trying to get you. What's going through your mind at
this fucking sucks. That's going through my mind. This fucking.
And so you get to Charlotte, and then what? You jump to
New York.
To New York.
I think it was JFK I landed at.
So you got to Charlotte because it was the biggest local regional airport. You ultimately hop on a plane to New York. But did you ever think about, just with all your friends all over the world, trying to get out of the U.S. altogether and going international?
Oh, of course I thought about it, but not right then.
And did you ever try?
No, I did not. Did not ever try.
And so then in New York, how much time did you spend there? Because I think ultimately you went down to Virginia too.
Yep. I was there at least 9 months.
Okay, so that's a decent amount of time over this 2.5 year run that you were on the lam.
I want to say 9 months. It could have been 7. I don't,
And so the hacking had accelerated from the first raid to now the second raid. So does it die down then and you start to be more low key, or does it just continue to?
A little bit. It pretty much dies down because I don't have, it's all about getting set up with everything to be able to have this access and do these things. I don't always have the right physical setup, a phone line, my work area that I can do stuff from, even if it's just at a corporation, some closet somewhere, that, right? Whatever you do, you do.
Yeah, whatever you could get access to, whatever you could get your hands on.
Right, yeah.
And so in New York for that 9 months, did you at least get to put your head down on the same bed for 9 months, or were you still, you actually got a little bit of stability?
Mostly, unless I wanted to travel somewhere else around locally, visiting people I haven't seen ever or in a long time.
And with New York, I mean, that was
there's a lot of people.
Yeah, and then
that I would know, a lot of seen people that I could meet.
And MOD was pretty big in New York. Were you spending time with them?
I did meet Corrupt one time when I went to New York. But I didn't really hang out with the others.
And Corrupt being John Lee,
yep.
He was on the cover of Wired. And
right, yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah.
And when you were there for that 9 months, is that when you saw him, or was that a different time?
It was then.
It was then. Okay. And then so why, if you seems like it's a little bit stable for you, you got 9 months, you know where you're going to sleep every night. What ultimately caused you to kick out of there and go to Virginia?
The rumor had gone around that I was in the tri-state area.
Okay.
So just because that rumor, and I'd heard back about that, I immediately was like, well, you know what? I should get out of here. Let me see where the next place is going to be. Because it won't be here then, because I am in the tri-state area, so I'm leaving.
And
they knew that.
In Virginia Beach and through all of this, Theorem was periodically seeing you?
She would come, she'd fly to New York, and, I'd take the train down, get her at the airport, and we'd party and go stay in fucking nice hotels in New York. Because she had money. She didn't give a fuck.
And did any of them, including her, ever, just on the risk of aiding and abetting, did any of them get interrogated or get arrested?
I mean, there was one time she said FBI was talking to people about they were getting on the plane, but it was about a murder. So, I don't know. She knows.
And so you wind up in Virginia Beach, and how long did you get to have stability there?
I honestly don't know how long that was. Maybe that would be my third big chunk. 8 months, maybe.
8 months. And then ultimately, while you're down in Virginia Beach, a buddy of yours, Morty Rosen, says you should come up to New York, hang out with friends.
Right, yep.
And what happens? What happens next?
Oh, yeah, I get, Secret Service gets word that I'm coming. Not from him, but as I found out from the actual agent himself, he comes and has coffee with me once a year up here. He said it was one of the other ones gave me up that I was going to be there.
Because they were all, in just this whole time period, in a relatively short amount of time, everyone's getting arrested. Even Morty Rosen, I think, like 3 months before he had been arrested.
Yeah, he was even in Time magazine under his arrest, yeah.
And so the Secret Service knew you were coming up. Someone had dimed you out.
Yeah, I got dimed out by probably one of his friends that we both knew. But I didn't trust much, but he trusted more because he's like that and fuck yeah. So anyway, but you know what I mean? I got dimed out, And literally, I was waiting for my Chinese food to be delivered. Knock at the door. I open the door thinking it's my Chinese food, and it's the special agent in charge of the New York field office for Secret Service, and Tommy, the guy who I know who comes up every year, picking me up. It was the special agent in charge who threw me up against the wall and had the gun on my side.
They actually pulled
the cuffs on me.
They pulled the guns out of the holsters.
Yeah, I mean, this dude he's serious. Like, you are not getting away. Like, it's in my kidney. Like, it would blow me. Like, I would have been crippled forever from that moment on had I tried to flee. These are agents. It's the federal police.
I know you're arrested, and so it. Mm-hmm. But was there any sense of just relief at all that it's finally over? I mean, 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years.
Not relief at all, because I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, what's going to happen now that they've got me? I'm terrified. Now's the more terrifying part, because now it's ending after all the time. I mean, I ran like Logan's Run. I got a crystal blinking in my palm, and I've managed to run the time in the system out that long. We're seeing what's going on now.
And to your point about Logan's Run, the ball finally turned red.
Right. Yeah, it was.
So you're apprehended, and they take you to the tombs. Is that what it's called?
Well, first they take me up into WTC. I believe it was 7.
World Trade Center 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the Secret Service office, which was interesting. I kind of hung out. Guys would come around and be like, yo, because they would be on the boards and they read all the reports about me because they're doing their work. It's their job to know me.
And so they probably feel like they actually do know you. They almost like
right,
have a relationship.
I got a lot of handshakes. I'm like, can I get a smoke? Like, I get a cigarette from them. Like, how often you get that if you're a criminal in a federal office?
And so overall, the Secret Service agents, they were
very nice to me.
Yeah.
Because they were just interested to see me.
And so they go down, they bring you down to WT7. Like, I guess they're kind of doing an intake, they're interviewing you.
WTC 7 is Secret Service office. I'm taken from there to the New York Police Department, which is, well, I don't know the location, but it was Special Frauds Unit, because that's what they had. Debit cards under then, Special Frauds Unit. And then, so I was just driven from Secret Service to there, and then new booking there.
Okay, and so you're processed there.
I'm processed.
And
then I'm being held in county, which is the Tombs.
And what is the Tombs? Is that in Manhattan itself?
Yeah, it used to be. Now it is gone. Been destroyed, but back then it was.
And because I've seen pictures of the building, it looked like it looked intimidating from the outside.
Yeah, it's very, very. I mean, like, there's a ton of movies that you'll see the Tombs in, where people have been through the system and come out to the Tombs.
And so, was that your first time through all of this that you were ever held up and behind bars?
Yeah, I've never been in the system before, and that was it.
And what was that? What was that experience like?
I was like, man, I don't know. I'm afraid. It's New York. I don't want to get killed in jail. So, like, I got help. They gave me
solitary.
Yeah. No, not solitary. It was like protective custody.
Okay.
So, but I mean, people look at you bad if you're in protective custody, because they go, "Why are you in protective custody?"
They think you might be.
It can be even worse.
Yeah, ratting people out or something like that.
Right, it could be even worse. So, but for me, if without it, I wouldn't stay alive. I don't think.
And so there was something going on while you were in the Tombs where you just weren't doing well. You were kind of going.
Yeah, I was kind of flipped out because I was in solitary. They just had me shut in my cell 24/7 for like a week and a half, and I was like, I threw a fit. And they were like, okay, we'll try to get you moved to Rikers, where you have more open area there.
And so for a week and a half, I mean, we're not talking about even like 23-1, where you have an hour outside of.
Right, you don't get out at all. That door never
You
opened.
literally are in your cell for, yeah,
Yeah.
anyone would go crazy. And so you start telling them, I don't want to do this. I want to go somewhere else.
Right. I mean, like I used to play chess with the guy through the door. He'd put the chessboard out, and so I'd tell him what moves I'm making.
Was this another inmate or an officer?
It was another inmate. He was in a big tax fraud guy who was in custody at the time.
How long were you in the Tombs before you got transferred? Just that week and a half?
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty much.
And where is Richard Rosen in all of this at this
He's
time?
in California in his office.
And does he know that you've been
We're
picked
on,
up?
you know, we're on the phone back and forth the whole time.
And so he does decide to retake the
Right.
case.
He agrees to retake the case, which was very nice of him, because you know I had just left. You know, I thought about myself. I didn't think to tell him I'm leaving, because you know, I figured that would either make things worse for him with them, or worse for me with them. You know, if I start telling people I'm not coming back, I'd never told anyone I'm not coming back.
And kind of to your point, it's like, you know, most lawyers, they want to be able to make sure that their client is cooperating, things like that.
Yep.
And so when you took off, you didn't tell him, but here he is after you finally gotten arrested, and he decides to help you.
And he's kind enough that he remembers and he's good enough with my case that, and his kindness will bring it. He said, but you know, I'll do it for 5,000, but you know, if it gets switched to federal court, that will be more like 50,000. I'm like, okay, I understand.
And so
That's the difference.
So you're talking to him while you're in the Tombs. You get transferred to Rikers, which is, I mean, that's a pretty notorious prison too. Did you know that that's where you were going?
Yeah, I knew, because they put me in North Infirmary Command, which is, it's a big open area with a bunch of little cells inside the area, but you have a common area where you can circulate with, you can see other people and be normal. You're not going to likely not going to get killed there, and because North Infirmary Command was protective custody, the whole thing. Like there was a Colombian drug dealer in there that was in one of the cells in the part I was in. You know, there were like other people, other high profile people.
And the Tombs, like county, I mean, typically that's where people are being processed and they're awaiting trial, they're waiting for a determination.
Like all of these are all county.
Yeah, but Rikers, that's the big leagues.
You can be there waiting to be processed. You can be there going on the upstate or on the downstate, like you're going up to the big house, or you're going down to the big house for on the bus ride down to prison in Allentown, or bus ride upstate.
And so going to Rikers Island, I mean, that's where killers are. That's where.
Yes.
And what was going through your mind knowing that you're getting
That's where
transferred there?
DMX is, you know.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
DMX was in there when I was in there. Pretty much half the entire tier was full of murderers.
Yeah. And so you're around all these folks, but three in particular. There's a serial killer, there's a murderer, and then there's a jewelry thief.
Yep. A jewelry thief is also a fireman.
And he's also a fireman.
So like, to me, he was like, okay, like he's a fucking thief, but it's okay. I mean, he's a fireman. He's law enforcement anyway.
And so how do you go from meeting these people to sitting down with them and playing a game of D&D together?
Because I knew how to do that. It was something different than everyone else than what was going on, right? So I'm like, oh yeah, well, hell, I'll play D&D. What the hell? Why not?
And so you literally taught a serial killer, a murderer, and a jewelry thief how to play D&D.
Well, the one guy did, the dungeon master dude.
He was a dungeon master.
Yeah, he's the one who taught them. I mean, I did my part too, to help them understand, you know, how you play the game.
Were they any good?
This is what a round is.
Right.
You know, we take our turns, which is, you know, try to get prisoners in Rikers Island to take turns, you know. Like, they're going to immediately want to be just, I'm killing motherfuckers every second. I kill a motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine trying to teach prisoners at Rikers Island taking turns in patience.
Right.
Did they enjoy the game? Were they any good at it?
Well, some enjoyed it. Kentucky enjoyed it too fucking much.
So Kentucky enjoyed it too much. What do you mean by that?
I take my halberd and I splash, and there's blood everywhere. You know, that's Kentucky. He loved it too much.
He was good at killing hobgoblins.
Right. He liked killing too much.
And there was a point though too. He was demonstrating to you how he killed people,
Yep.
and can you kind of
Yeah, he put his arm around my neck. He had his bicep like he was gonna, press against my
Adam's
apple, like crush it. But luckily, the fireman came over and helped. So the fireman was good at talking with him.
So you're at the Tombs for a week and a half. How long were you at Rikers?
Month.
A month, and then you ultimately get transferred.
Chuck, the sheriff's deputy, flies me back to California.
Were you ready to go at that point after meeting all these?
Yeah, I wanted out of there. What are you kidding? I mean, Captain Obvious, yeah. I'm getting the fuck out of that.
And so they have to fly you back to California because obviously that's where you're going to have your trial and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
yeah, so I'm in my hometown in California then.
In Monterey.
Monterey County.
Monterey County, yeah.
Yeah, which is Salinas, the seat of the county.
And so once you're there, is that the first time you see Richard Rosen? Did he ever visit you in New York?
Yeah, he did. Well, he did not come out. He could not come out physically there.
Okay.
Yeah, the first time I see him is, he's pulling me into meetings because once I'm physically in his area, no problem for him because he's a lawyer there, so he always does that with his clients. He's registered for it. He just pulls me into meetings. Hey, Richard, how you doing?
But he was having to come down to county from the time that you flew into Monterey. There was no bail or anything like that. You were in jail.
I was in jail.
Okay. And so
yeah, because I was a fugitive. I was a flight risk, obviously. I had been a fugitive. Me getting cut loose, not gonna happen. I was too shackled all the time. Getting moved around, I was always shackled. If I'm in the back of a van, I'm fully shackled, legs and arms.
And so you're finally in California, 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years on the run, and now the system finally has you. What were your thoughts on your prospects of?
Oh, I was like, I don't know what they're gonna do. They're gonna try wire fraud, I think now. And so things could change. I don't know.
And so all these things are coming out, and from what I understand, Richard Rosen tells you what we're going to do is you're actually going to plead guilty.
Right, yeah, you're going to plead guilty because if we put in a plea now, they have you in the system with your birth date of, whatever, January 15th. I'm like, well, that's not right. My birthday is January 5, so.
And can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure, because this is how I won the case.
Right. And so, yeah, can you kind of set that up for us?
Yeah, I'm at the hearing. Judge is listening. Everything's being presented, and Richard argues, "Hi, I want to submit that he is older than 21. He's over 21 years of age, which an adult in the eyes of the court of the state of California. And he had talked to a buddy of his who worked for Melvin Belli down in L.A., and Melvin Belli told him to say this,
And from what I understand in my research of looking at sort of California statutes is the California juvenile system, it has jurisdiction so long as the crime's committed under the age of 18, and whether you're pleading or about to get tried, you're under the age of 21.
Yep. So they'd held me in there, and I'd outrun the system so long that I'd turned 21 in jail there.
Right. But they didn't know it.
But they didn't know because there's a document problem, like clerical problem with my record.
With your date of birth.
And so what they did is, my lawyer told them, Richard said, hey, told the judge, and the judge said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to make a query to the Department of Motor Vehicles here, and we're going to find out. So it came back, they had my birthday wrong. Boom, gavel hit. You know, case dismissed on technicality. Gavel hit. I was free to go.
Yeah, because if you're tried in the juvenile system and you plea,
it stays there.
It stays there.
That's how he got it to stay there.
Right. It cannot move up to the.
You admit everything. Admit you're par. I got to admit I'm me. I got to admit I did everything. You imagine that I have to admit I'm par.
And so they
in court and records I'm par.
Right. They had planned to sentence you January 15th. They thought your birthday was January 13th. Is that right?
It was the other way around.
Yeah. And so they were going to be able to sentence you just before you turned.
Exactly. Yeah, because they're devious.
And
that's the kind of shitty thing they do. Is right before you're gonna be your birthday, they're gonna fuck you over.
But they didn't know you had already turned 21.
Yeah, they didn't know, which is awesome.
And so he got to go before the judge, and the whole thing.
Gavel hit.
2.5 years,
walking.
Nothing.
Yep.
What went through your mind at that point? 2.5 years on the run, you're looking at all this stuff.
Well, I mean, because I was just amazed. I couldn't believe Rosen came through for me. He was right. I was terrified to plead guilty. I thought they were gonna, I thought maybe he was gonna dump truck me or something.
Right.
So I didn't know.
Pushing you to plead guilty, and ultimately he got you off. And I mean, that's a very special lawyer to be able to do something like that.
Well, I mean, it's good that Melvin Bella, his former worker, was in contact with him, and because these guys have these discussions, and it came up what he could do, because when you can force to be stuck, in juvenile court by doing that.
And so you walk on a technicality. You're free of all charges.
No possibility of, because of double
jeopardy.
Double jeopardy. No possibility that federal or state would try to bring it back up.
And so it's all over now. The 2.5 years is over. Running is over. You don't have to be nervous of anything coming back to haunt you.
I'm just home, man.
You're just home.
Yeah, I went home, like knocking on my mom's door. Hi, Mom. It's like, what do you do, right? I'm back home. Because it ended with me leaving there. So I went back, and that was the only place I had. But I had other friends there. So eventually, I was able to settle back in and with my initiative, my local friends from growing up.
You mentioned coming back to family and coming back to the Secret Service. You mentioned that the Secret Service was pretty gracious through the process. They were pretty friendly with you.
Yeah, I mean, they were nice. I mean, normally they're not, because in Bay Area, they're very mean people. East Coast, they were so much nicer. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the individuals.
And they had talked to you.
They have different tactics they use, I think.
Yeah, nice guy.
Good guy, bad guy, yeah.
And through the process of looking for you, they found your father.
Right, they found my father in Florida. I'd never met my father in my entire life. And, this was the Bay Area agent who had, and he had been down to see my father and interview him. And then he told me, son, Jason, sometimes when you're soul searching, you should go down, you should see your father. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay,
Did you ever
No, I did not. I just, like, I don't like that you went and bothered people that I don't know.
And so your father was a security guard, I think?
He was a prison guard in Florida.
And then he had
Tallahassee, I believe.
He had a family.
He had a family, had a daughter and wife there. And then he passed away in 2015 in Jacksonville. I found out recently.
Did you ever regret not seeing
him?
him?
I didn't get a chance to go meet him.
Yeah.
But I had a little bit of time I could have.
Yeah. And this agent, was this the same agent? You mentioned earlier that you saw him recently. Was this the same agent?
No, that's East Coast Tom. The one I'm talking about, West Coast Tom. Okay. There's a West Coast agent named Tom and an East Coast agent named Tom. That's the difference.
Okay. But one of them, the East Coast agent, kept up with you.
Yep.
Over the years.
We're still friends.
Why do you?
Because why not?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I went into cybersecurity after after I cleared my name, right? So, and I ended up working with a guy who became the director of the Secret Service at my job. He was a high up. He was a former Secret Service, retired Secret Service that was working security in the private industry at the same company I was. And he got pulled back into the Secret Service because they needed him to be the director. So he was the 24th director of the Secret Service.
Tom was?
No, this
other guy. Okay. And so the law enforcement officer and the fugitive, you guys ultimately keep in touch and become friends.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and because Tom knows I know that guy too.
You know, from the arrest, you turned it into a career in cybersecurity. And I think in the notes you had mentioned you were involved in the DNC hack. Is that right?
I worked the DNC convention, which was after the hack, because the DNC and the GRU,
right, the Russian
military intelligence, hacked the DNC server, and then they took what they got and leaked it through WikiLeaks to the public domain. And that was 2016 election. Really, I'm pretty sure the Justice Department has a federal indictments. They identified who those GRU members are, and there's federal indictments out of PA against them.
That are waiting, just like with the Chinese. Yeah. And so you've obviously had a storied life and a storied career getting to see all of these things.
Yeah, I mean, and there just became more as I worked in cyber.
Right.
You know, it just got even more. Because, I mean, I know what I would have done before, and I know what to do about these things as I come upon these challenges,
And you had mentioned at the beginning, you had to commit a crime just to get access, just to make
just to be able to connect to another computer in the world at all.
And so how do you think you guys changed the world, changed things?
You don't have to now. And, we worked at most of the companies, that made, transitioned the internet and did most of the connecting in the world, like the Ciscos and the F5s and other companies that connect everything in the world. And it doesn't cost them anything now.
And
you have your main provider you may pay.
Yeah, you guys, you had a huge impact on the industry and changed things. And now which used to be absurd charges.
Yeah, it doesn't cost you like $5 a minute for 128K packets. And it was 128K packets metered.
Yep.
Imagine, all day transferring data, how much it would cost.
Why are you doing this? What are you hoping to get out of it?
What I'm hoping to get out, I want people to, I wanted to make people more free to communicate before. Now, people can be more free in communicating what went on before. I think this is a good idea.
Well, you have a story, man, and it deserves to be told. So I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you so much.
It's really nice to meet you, Par.
Thanks, dude.